The Wagner Group, Putin and Prigozhin's brilliant strategy, is still seen on the front lines behind the treacherous attacks. Russian President Vladimir Putin apparently has a plan to drive soldiers to the European border in response to the Russian mercenary force Wagner's effort to rebel. He even signed the decrees authorizing Russia to attack Lithuania and Poland. As we all know, the Wagner Rebellion, a Russian mercenary organization that rose up against the Kremlin while Russia was attempting to invade Ukraine, caused things to alter. The US announced that Wagner's influence in Ukraine was dwindling. On this assertion, a startling allegation was also made. We also wanted to share a frame with you that supports these statements. Wagner head Yevgeny Prigozhin was spotted this week during the Africa-Russia meeting in Petersburg. He was seen shaking hands with Central African Republic Ambassador Freddie Mapuka, a senior official. Prigozhin and Mr. Mapuka met at the Treziny Palace Hotel in Petersburg. According to BBC Verify, compared known photos of the car attendant with the photo of Prigozhin and found a 99-eyed, indicating that the two images belonged to the same guy. The interior characteristics shown in the backdrop of the shot were also matched with the Treziny Palace Hotel, which is owned by Prigozhin, according to Russian media. Mr. Mapuka's lanyard features a specific pattern that is identical to the official lanyard worn by summit delegates. It has been verified that Prigozhin has not been seen in Russia since Wagner's failed revolt in June. Wagner is expected to meet with Putin in the coming days. There are numerous papers that confirm the two decrees' covert plan. This is demonstrated by the shipment to the Polish border and across Belarus. Lukashenko is actually attempting to avoid drawing attention to it by seeming impartial on the subject. However, it is improbable that he is not a part of this grand scheme. We can say that Russia has implemented the 1,000-year plan. I'd want to describe this scenario to you using an example that you're all familiar with. Putin recently warned Poland and even began his speech with thus: "We'll remind you of Stalin's present. Poland has forgotten about the west of Poland, Stalin's gift to the country. We will remind them," he said. Aggression against Belarus is aggression against Russia, he concluded. Wagner reveals Putin and Lukashenko's secret strategy in light of all that has happened in the last few days. On state television, Russian politician Andrei Kartapolov stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin had a plan in relation to the Wagner soldiers, who staged a brief mutiny last month. Putin is planning an operation against Poland and Lithuania in response to their hostile attitudes toward Russia. Deki. Kartapolov speculated that Putin intends to drive Wagner soldiers who have switched sides to the Polish-Lithuanian border, while it was alleged that NATO was preparing for an attack on Poland and Lithuania, both of which are members of the Baltic region. Polish intelligence forces announced that restrictions in the region were still in place. Poland continues to take aggressive measures based on the intelligence it has obtained, as well as to threaten Russia. Now, I'd want to tell you about one probable outcome of this idea. Ukraine appears to be making considerable advances these days when focusing on the Bakhmut front. This is a strategy. Russia appeared to be losing on the front after the Wagner coup and began its deconstructed game with Wagner. He demonstrated this to the entire world by staging a phony coup attempt. Nobody can deny that Putin is a brilliant soldier and a wise statesman. By the way, I want to explain all the truths to you by thinking decently. Ukraine, which is leading the way, draws all attention to its accomplishments. Meanwhile, the Wagner Group is beefing up its presence in crucial sites throughout Belarus and Russia in preparation for an attack. And 2. I can tell you that he is ready to shine with a modest spark, as he did during World War II. However, the region believes that Russia is the judge, and we might interpret these polemics as a symbol of strength and a threat. According to reports, Polish officials are keeping track of how many Wagners will travel to Belarus in the region, which is strategically important for NATO and Russia. It has been said that this region represents NATO's soft underbelly and that Russia intends to strike here. 15 sabotage members of what is thought to be the largest Russian spy ring ever to appear in Poland have been apprehended. In addition, the Warsaw government has made a stunning move against the Wagner formation and Russian spy gangs on the border with Belarus. After the Wagner fighters arrived in Belarus, the Warsaw Security Committee decided to relocate the forces to eastern Poland. In accordance with this decision, Warsaw authorities declared that more than 350,000 soldiers, including NATO soldiers, had been sent to Poland's border with Belarus. Furthermore, the objective of the 150,000-strong Polish army to build a massive military force of 300,000 in a short period of time put Russia into a corner. However, Russia reacted to Poland's deployment of troops along its border with Belarus. The chief of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, Sergei Nareshkin, has claimed that Poland has serious plans to deploy troops to Ukraine's western areas. In response to Nareshkin's remarks, Putin said that he agreed with the concerns of the intelligence chiefs and suggested that if Polish units entered Lviv, for example, or other parts of Ukraine, they would stay there. That is why Putin has been hard on Poland. Reiterating baseless charges that they are plotting vengeance against Ukraine, Putin's allusion to Poland by showing Belarus is, of course, seen as ignoring the strength of both Poland and the NATO alliance. Of course, the Russian leader can claim that any attack on Belarus was carried out against his own country. However, Putin should keep in mind that any attack on Poland is considered by all members of the International Military Alliance, according to Article 5 of the NATO Defense Agreement. So how has Belarus reacted to this issue? After Poland sent a diplomatic message to Russia, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko rushed into the arms of his ally Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russian President Vladimir Putin has met for the first time with his closest ally Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko since reaching an agreement to end the insurgency of Wagner fighters in Russia last month. This crucial meeting took place at the Bolsherov Rushi home in Sochi, Russia, between Vladimir Putin and Alexander Lukashenko. I'd like to see the front line on the opposite side. As the conflict in the south increases, Kiev declares victory. While Western officials spoke of a major operation, the Ukrainian military said it had succeeded on one of the front lines in southeastern Ukraine. That is why Putin has been hard on Poland. Reiterating baseless charges that they are plotting vengeance against Ukraine, Putin's allusion to Poland by presenting Belarus is, of course, interpreted as dismissing both Poland's and NATO's might. Of course, the Russian leader can claim that any attack on Belarus was carried out against his own country. However, Putin should keep in mind that any attack on Poland is considered by all members of the International Military Alliance, according to Article 5 of the NATO Defense Agreement. So how has Belarus handled this situation? After Poland sent a diplomatic message to Russia, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko rushed into the arms of his ally Russian President Vladimir Putin. Since negotiating an agreement to terminate the Wagner fighters' insurrection in Russia last month, Russian President Vladimir Putin has met for the first time with his closest ally, Belarusian President Andriy Lukashenko. However, according to a video published by Lukashenko's press agency, the two long-standing leaders met in St. Petersburg before to the scheduled talks. It depicts them decamping together at St. Petersburg's Konstantinovsky Palace. Putin and Lukashenko talked about Poland's aggressive position against the invasion, Wagner forces, and Ukraine's counter-offensive. According to Russian news outlets, Putin told his Belarusian colleague that Ukraine's continuing counterattack against Russian forces in Ukraine had failed, before being halted by Putin. Lukashenko stated that the counterattack had failed, according to the TASS news agency. In addition, the Belarusian leader stated that he is keeping Russian Wagner mercenaries in the middle of the country, and Minsk is in charge of the situation with notorious fighters on its soil. According to a Belarusian-affiliated Telegram channel, Lukashenko joked that warriors from Russia's Wagner mercenary squad, who are now training the Belarusian army, were eager to cross the border and enter NATO member Poland. Belarusian authorities who supported Russian President Vladimir Putin's stance were dubbed armchair lovers. Furthermore, the impression that Lukashenko was dependent on Putin for survival reinforced Kiev's suspicions that Putin would press him to join a fresh ground offensive, thereby opening a new front in Russia's failing invasion of Ukraine. Following the meeting between Putin and Lukashenko, there has been no movement on launching a new front in Belarus. Putin continues to threaten the world with nuclear weapons through Belarus, but international treaties restrict the Russian leader from doing so. However, as Putin's occupation policies in Ukraine develop, Belarus is supposed to serve as a last launching pad for the Russian military, because it is likely that Putin may destroy even Lukashenko, whom he regards as an ally, in order to win. Thank you for keeping an eye on us.